Next topic I wanted to look at is the status of applications quarterly report. This is a report that the NHPD puts out every quarter, monitoring and discussing their status in issuing product licenses as well as site licenses. So just keep in mind that the government runs, their fiscal year is from April 1st to March 31st. So this report is for the government's first quarter of 2010-2011. You can see the numbers in brackets refer to last quarter, to the fourth quarter. So the first number is for the activities between April 1st and June 30th. The numbers in brackets are referring to last quarter, which would be January 1st to March 31st. So you can see that the number of PLAs received since January 1st, 2004 is obviously increasing. Just over 52,000 applications have been received. 41,412 assessments of those licenses have been completed, so 79% of the applications have been assessed and either issued a license or refused. Those numbers, 22,820 licenses have been issued, and this represents 29,758 products, because you can have multiple flavors or bottle sizes, etc., on one application. And what's interesting to note is that the number of companies that have received a product license has increased, and this seems to increase each quarter that they put out this report. So it's either new companies coming to Canada, which is encouraging, or companies that have tried to bypass the regulations are finally waking up and realizing that they can't get away from getting a product license application. So one way or the other, I think that's an encouraging number to see that the number of companies receiving a product license application is continually increasing. Again, just comment on the backlog. The backlog refers to applications received before April 1st, 2008. Any applications received from April 1st, 2008 onwards are considered to be part of the regular workload of the NHPD. So 84% of the applications in the backlog have been completed, which means they've been issued a license, refused a license, or withdrawn. And 70% of the regular workload applications have been completed. 99% of the applications in the backlog have been addressed, and 79% of the regular workload applications have been addressed. Addressed means that a license has either been issued, refused, withdrawn, or an information request notice has been issued for that product. So something has actually happened with that product. The NHPD's targets were to have 100% of the backlog applications addressed by March 30th of this year, and to have completed 100% of the applications in the backlog by December, the end of December this year. So hopefully they're on track for that. A couple more numbers from the Status of Applications Quarterly Report. Again, within the first quarter, April 1st to June 30th, 3,661 product license applications were completed by the NHPD. This is comparable, again, to the numbers in brackets referring to the past quarter. What's encouraging here, though, is that 73% of those applications resulted in a license being issued. This is significantly higher than last quarter, which was 55.7%. And the trend we've seen over the last few years is it's pretty well been 50-50, your chances of getting a product license. 50% of applications tended to be refused and 50% tended to be licensed. So this past quarter was fairly positive, and 73% of the applications receiving licenses. And this again may be indicative of the quality of information, the quality of applications that are now being submitted, increased availability of pre-cleared information to help expedite the review and success of your application. Only 21, almost 22% of the applications were refused. So that, again, that number is decreasing, which is positive, and a comparable number of product license applications were withdrawn the applicant themselves, slightly less than last quarter. A couple of surprising numbers in this slide. 760 applications were refused during this quarter based on the following reasons. So the first one is, again, these numbers are comparing first quarter to last quarter. 28% were refused when applicants did not respond to a request for further information. what's significantly changed is the second bullet point. 55% of these applications failed to meet basic application requirements, and this is significantly higher than last quarter, which was 34%. And I believe this would speak to the increasing demands that the NHPD is putting on applicants to ensure that they do have a complete quality application, and the fact that they're not issuing any early IRNs at the moment. So again, the emphasis is on getting a complete quality electronic submission into the government. Again, the next bullet point has changed as well. 12% were refused when the applicant's response to a request for further information did not meet the requirements. So fewer applications are being rejected based on that bullet point. So again, hopefully it speaks to the ability to find pre-cleared information to attest to or increasing quality of research strategies. These numbers, again, are all fairly comparable between this quarter and last quarter in terms of the number of applications that were refused because they did not meet the definition of an NHP, or were refused when quality, safety, or efficacy issues were identified, or were refused based on a result of a significant change being made. Again, just in terms of applications that were received and completed, you can see the numbers in brackets, the first number being the number of applications of that specific type that were received in the first quarter, and the number that were actually completed. So obviously we're not necessarily talking about the same application being received and completed. There's overlap from other quarters. You can see the bulk of the applications fall into labeling standards and compendial applications. These are both in part of the PCI, the pre-cleared information stream. So those are the ones that will be quicker to get licensed. Just some numbers for your information about site license applications. In the fourth quarter, beginning of this year, there were 61 applications received and 78 completed, fairly comparable to the first quarter, that 68 were received and 53 completed. And again, we're not necessarily talking about the same applications being received and completed. So moving on, if we look at new guidance and tools for the industry that came out in the last 3 months, I think the most exciting thing that's really come out, and this came out via BEEP on September 30th, is Health Canada's position statement on the pre-clearance and complaint adjudication of exempted natural health products advertising materials, which is quite a mouthful. But what's really exciting is it's the position that the government has taken on industry's ability to advertise for products with exemption numbers. What they're saying is that because they have an exemption number, they are deemed to be legal for sale and then therefore can be legally advertised. Typically, when one of the advertising pre-clearance bodies, such as Advertising Standards Canada, reviews and pre-clears advertising materials, they base it on the terms of market authorization, which for a natural health product would be the product license that they've received from the NHPD. For an exempted product with an exemption number, you don't have that product license. So what they're saying is that the advertisement will be reviewed in terms of the product license application. So if there's consistency between your proposed advertising materials and what you put in your product license application, then you should be able to get pre-clearance from one of the pre-clearance advertising agencies such as Advertising Standards Canada, which I think is quite exciting because there's been a lot of discussion around the ability of the industry to advertise their natural health products in the absence of a license. So basically what they're saying that the advertising of a product in a manner consistent with that product's product license application, absent other factors, would not generally be false or misleading or likely to create an erroneous impression with respect to its character, value, quantity, composition, merit, or safety. So as they say, what your proposed claims are in your product license application are the claims that you can potentially make in your advertising if you've got an exemption number. So as I say, I think that's quite exciting from industry's perspective. A couple of other changes that are coming along. Standards of evidence. This issue was raised at stakeholder meetings that the NHPD, or stakeholder workshops that the NHPD hosted at the beginning of the year, and I think is just sort of starting to sink in with stakeholders now. When you're submitting your standards of evidence, you only need to submit the evidence template and the rationale for your product's combination. You no longer have to submit the summaries of the individual articles. You just need to identify the articles that you're using and whether they are supporting safety and or efficacy of the various ingredients. So as I mentioned, this was discussed at workshops earlier in the year, but it's sort of just starting to sink in how this actually applies to industry and how we're moving forward with their applications. And this is consistent with information, how it will be filed with the electronic submissions as well. Again, we talked about the finished product specifications form during our last webinar update. The form now is actually posted on the NHPD's website. It is considered to be unsolicited information that you can submit to support your application. It is a template that makes it a lot easier for the NHPD to review your quality information and minimizes mistakes on the applicant's part. Another guidance document that has been posted is the traditional claims submissions, the evidence criteria, and evidence assessment templates. Again, these have been discussed in previous NHPD workshops and on dicentra webinar updates, but the actual documents are now posted on the NHPD's website. So they do refer to the issuance of early IRNs, which is no longer the case. E-IRNs are no longer being issued for any application type. Switching from product license applications to site license applications, again, there's been some additional information coming out for site license applicants. This information, again, is all coming out via the BEEP, the electronic email system, and is not necessarily posted on the NHPD's website at the moment. So it's important to get on the BEEP email list to stay current of what's happening in the industry. So the documents, there's the site license evidence criteria and evidence assessment checklist, new approach to the assessment of site license applications, and the other one is the new approach to the processing of site licensing applications. So again, it's consistent with what's happening on the product licensing side, that the NHPD's expectation of a complete quality submission is being ramped up. They have higher expectations. They're not putting up with deficiencies in applications. They're not issuing information request notices. It's basically your application has to be complete and have a high quality, has to be legible. All the supporting documentation must be there in order for it to be accepted. So the NHPD has put this out in a guidance document. They prepared a checklist, and they recommend strongly that industry compare their application with the checklist to make sure that everything has been included. The other thing that is changing is that effective immediately, so at the beginning of August, the NHPD is not sending out renewal packages by fax or by mail for site license holders. The site license holders will be receiving an email reminding them of their upcoming renewal. So it's up to the site license applicant to pay attention to that email and get their revised application in for renewal of their site license within the 30 days prior to their expiry date. However, the NHPD is suggesting that you leave at least 60 to 90 days before the expiry date to get the updated information into them. If you miss your deadline, then you're out of luck and you'll be back at square one in terms of applying for a brand new license